Hi, everyone. This is going to be a fun one. This is the basis of the neuropsychology information that you need to know in order to even get to another level of understanding how the mind works, how one thing connects to another thing, and it's just so pertinent to understand in this biology lesson that I'm about to give. I really do try to break it down in a way that the layman can understand. The person who is just like, what? I don't understand. What is a synaptic transmission? Can I even say that right? So, in order to understand, a question is asked. Describe the synapses of a terminal button to a dendritic membrane. So the explanation is the synaptic transmission is the communication between neurons. You go from one neuron to another. It's kind of like they're sending signals to a neighbor and they're trying to get something accomplished. So the terminal buttons that are at the end of the neurons, and they're sending the signals, the synaptic transmissions to the other neurons. So you have the terminal buttons at the end of the neuron sending the messages. The neurotransmitters, such as serotonin, which is something that a lot of people have heard of, are used to send those signals from neuron to neuron. The dendrite is like the roots of a tree. So if you're looking at a tree and then you have the roots and they spread out, the dendrites are like the roots of a tree. They receive the nourishment, which is like the information from the neurons' terminal buttons from one neuron to the next. So it's almost like the trees are connecting themselves and sending the signals through the roots of the tree. So I told you this is going to be interesting. So, in order that a drug can affect the synaptic transmission, drugs are chemical compounds that can affect hormones and neurotransmissions. Drugs can either speed up or slow down a person's synaptic transmissions. There are also drugs that can stop them altogether. So, they can cause chemical reactions with one another. Drugs can affect synaptic transmissions by challenging the availability, rate of release, and binding affinity, how molecules join of neurotransmitters. Drugs that affect the affinity examples, such as cocaine, NMDA, and antipsychotics. Drugs act as the precursor antagonist and they stop transmission to vesicle. I'm trying to go, slow enough so it doesn't throw you off. But they also stimulate postsynaptic receptors and presynaptic receptors and blocks reuptake. Okay, so you have a direct antagonist, a receptor blocker, direct antagonist again, non-competitive binding, indirect antagonist, and the indirect agonist. If you need definitions on any of these, I'll love to help you understand some of these. Something very important to understand is the tolerance and the sensitization sensitization of the drugs. So the tolerance is essentially when a drug is constantly being administered or given, the effects change and do not remain constant. So a person can become tolerant to that drug and the effectiveness decreases. So I don't know if you've ever had a medication or even an allergy medicine and you've been taking it for years and you're kind of like, oh, why do I still have symptoms? I feel like I've been taking it long enough. I shouldn't still have symptoms. It's because you're becoming tolerant to these things. Your body is becoming used to these drugs, and the effectiveness decreases. So when you have sensitization, I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It is the opposite effect. A person can become more sensitive to the drug, then it will become increasingly effective. So some people are very sensitive to certain drugs, and they have more effects or intolerances to those drugs. I have intolerances. Sometimes I say, oh, it's a drug allergy. It's not a drug allergy. It's just that I'm very sensitive to those drugs, and it can be increasingly effective sometimes, or ineffective, or effective to the point where it feels like it's ineffective. So these are very important things you have to keep in mind. But if you have any more questions and need a little bit more insight on the synaptic transmissions with serotonin or a drug or medications or anything, feel free to leave me a comment, and I will try my best to get the answer to you by my research or point you in the right direction. Sorry for all the stumbling over these words. Sometimes this course has been very challenging because the words that you have to know that are about your brain and neurotransmissions can be lengthy and hard, are not based off of our normal speaking abilities as people. So I hope you guys have a good day. Thank you.